I am absolutely thrilled about this upcoming panel, and I'm blown away by the number of guests we have online. Congratulations, actually, today, because most of them were invited by you, so that speaks volumes in terms of your network. Today's topic is going to be extremely interesting, and it's a topic that touches any company from 1, 2, 3 employees to hundreds or thousands of employees. And it treats the topic of business growth. And we have some specialists and experts with us today that will share their knowledge, wisdom, experience with us in a topic called the puzzle of real growth. So let's get it kicked off here. And I want to ask you guys, how did you come up with the name? Started off easy here.
Well, we came up with the puzzle of the name just because it kind of fell into place. We were reflecting on just the different things that we had in common and what overlapped and what didn't and how did it all come together. But really when we were talking, what came up was like, okay, during COVID, do you guys know that $1,000 or 1,000-piece white puzzle that came out? And people were trying to put it together. Like there's no picture, there's nothing. And we're like, well, how do people put their puzzles together when it's like that? Is it different when there's a picture? Do you start differently when you're working with 3 or 4 other people? And we saw the connection between that and how people are looking at their growth in business.
So let's just start right there. I'll take a quick poll. How many of you, when you do a puzzle, if you do puzzles, a few folks in the virtual room as well, you start with the corners? Okay, how many of you start with the frame? How many of you are crazy enough to start in the middle with common pieces or common colors? Okay, so the reality is, and why we call this the puzzle of real growth, effectively is, it doesn't matter where you start. At the end, you finish the puzzles, right? But some of us might take a little bit longer to get there, and hence the reason we're talking about the puzzle of real growth when it comes to your businesses.
Interesting. So anything to add from Benoit before we get started?
Not so far.
Awesome. Okay, so Peter.
Funny guy, fine.
So I know that, when as a business owner and anybody really who's responsible in generating growth, might it be in sales, in my role as a VP sales, etc., it can be a puzzle, and I really relate to what you just said, but there's a lot of myths that go with that undertaking. So I want to talk about some of these myths. En français, on dit démystifier les mythes. So we want to demystify some of them. Peter, why don't you get us to the next slide? And I want to hear every one of you talk about that. So one of the things we hear often is, I have to know everything. Je dois tout savoir.
That's a really common one, especially if you're working in a startup SME space, because when people build businesses from the ground up, at one point or another, you have to let go of your baby, and that's really hard to do. So one example that I dealt with was we were working about a decade ago with a multi-million-dollar import-export business. And the person running it, he built it from the ground up, so by no means is he unsuccessful. Like, he was doing great, but his goal, his ambition was to hit the $1 billion mark. And he was like, okay, how do I do this? What can I do differently to shift my success into even more? And we did a plethora of different things with him, different plans. And I know a bunch of you know our birds assessment, and that was the key point. He was an eagle, the guy that was running it. So that means he's super direct, very guarded, needs to take control of everything. And because he built it from the ground up, he hired all people that were not eagles, that were not like him, and that were in the more compliant kind of categories. So he built an army of yes men, and they did not challenge him. They did what he said, and so, therefore he was not scaling at a bigger level that went beyond his own self.
I have a lot of respect for entrepreneurs. There's people that are starting business, taking a lot of risk, and have the courage to take those risks. But and often they have to practice, to keep their mind focused and not to listen to all the people around that would discourage them. So no wonder that they become hard-headed. If they weren't at the beginning, they will be at the end. But once you start to have built something like sells for a couple of millions of dollars and have dozens of the employees, you have to start shifting and stop taking so much risk and start to become a better listener and to get advice from others and even to be coachable.
What's incredible is like many of you are business owners and you've seen your businesses scale. And when you started off, you kind of knew just about all the pieces, but you were comfortable in one area. And as you grow, you realize that you stay comfortable in that area. It's the other areas that you start to lose control over. No one has 360-degree understanding of any business as you scale. You need to surround yourself with the right team, with the right people. And that's what my experience I'm finding is more of those business owners, when they tell me what they need when I walk in the room, they're not ready to scale. You're ready to scale when you realize that the people around you you might need better people, you might need different people around in order to hit those numbers that you hope to achieve.
So the answer is you don't have to know everyone to grow. So go to the next slide, Peter, please. Another myth that we have is being busy equals success.
So this actually used to be almost like, or still is sometimes, a badge of honor. Like, I'm too busy to do this, therefore I'm successful. But the mistake is that you're interchanging busyness with doing business. And those are two very different things, because when you're busy, I know sometimes, you get overwhelmed, you have too many things to do, and that's gonna happen, but that should be the exception to the rule. Because busy work creates, to me anyways, from a people perspective, is a big red flag, because it stops you from doing the things that are intentional, the things that you want to do when you have that spare time, or you know that people are actually at a really good space where they're getting into flow and they're finding the right balance between getting things done and challenging themselves beyond to where their current state is. So it's a state of being reactive versus being proactive. And the problem is, or the issue with busyness, is that you get addicted to procrastination. You get addicted to that dopamine of getting things done and hustling last minute. And it does feel really good, but it doesn't help you be productive in the long run.
As a CPA, I've been dealing with the accounting or finance department for the last 30 years. And unfortunately, most of those departments, they're always busy, just trying to catch up and deliver the last month results. And that shouldn't be. And no wonder if they're always late or struggling producing those financial statements, they don't even have time to take care of the budgeting, reviewing the budget. And that's one problem, and that's one opportunity that business are missing out, is because only maybe 20% have a real budget system where they manage their business with. So being busy is a red flag, because if you're too busy, you're missing opportunities for sure.
I love it when I talk to business owners and they tell me I don't have time to plan. That's a problem. I'm too busy. What are you busy on? Are you working towards the real goal? Did you create the vision, the understanding of where you want to take the organization? Is everybody following that vision? And when we dig deep and we start peeling back the layers, whether it's in people, finance, or strategy, we discover that that's not what's happening. People are busy in what they're comfortable in, people are busy in what they want to do, but they're not busy for what you need to do for the growth. So in my experience, what I tell them is, if you don't have a clear vision that's completely understood by every member of the organization, you are not productive. And in the sales department, I found this. I had one client, it said, I went in there and I found that 40% of the sales time was on administrative work that had nothing to do with making the business better. Just stripping that away unblocked a growth opportunity. So be careful. As we keep saying, this is one of the biggest red flags, is if you're saying you're too busy to plan, you're too busy to grow.
Next slide, please, Peter. I need more people for me to grow.
So I'll be the last to say that you don't need people in your business, because that is my business. But when you are throwing people at a problem, that's when it becomes a problem. Because one example that I was working with a small organization. They're in hyper growth mode. And again, they were doing very well, but they wanted to do less with more. And that was a really good intention. But what they started doing is cutting down or skinning down their team. And then when they had a new mandate, they would hire ad hoc for that particular mandate. So you had their processes of like hustling to hire, hustling to onboard, and then when the mandate didn't come through or was shortened to less than planned, guess what happened? The people got let go. So what did that result in? Is resulted in poor morale, bad for their brand because people did not want to work there, and no one wanted to stay there because people kept getting fired left, right, and center. Even if the people didn't get let go, if the mandate didn't come through, that still happened, and it cost the people, the team, that existing team that has been there the whole time, additional time to hire, additional time to onboard, and additional input for them to get to a level and go through that learning curve. So adding more people just for your growth may not be the right thing for you to do.
Hiring is investing into people, and same as investing in capex. You first need to get the financing, and then you do the spending. But it's not often the case, and even worse than that, if businesses allow themselves to skip the financing part before the spending, it's not surprising that very often they're skipping on the training, they're skipping on the monitoring, which end out sometimes to poor efficiency of those hiring, and then follow up by firing. You know, the wasted cost of mismanaging planning of human resources varies depending on the situation, but it could go as up as 50% to 200% of the cost of one employee annual salary.
You know, I go back to the same thing I said before about vision. If the strategic plan is put in place, you know when you're going to need to grow and add people. But when you do the strategic plan, you find that people can become more efficient, and you don't need to add more people. Throwing people at a problem is just wrong. And I experienced that in one of the companies I was at, where they doubled the development team size from 25 to 50. It causes massive problems, and when the business did not come in, as Kristina mentioned, now you started to create cutbacks, now you create this. What we needed to do was literally do operational processes, look through the processes. Did it make sense? That is where we discovered the opportunity. So throwing humans at a problem is costly, it's disruptive, and if it doesn't match the vision, your growth will be absolutely devastated.
Next slide, Peter. Yeah, I just need more sales.
I'm rolling my eyes because this is what people call me. It's like, okay, David, we need more sales. Help us find more sales. That's the solution to all our problems. Okay, I agree with you, but can you handle it? What does $1 million mean to your business? Can you deliver it? Do you have the right people to do it? Do you have the financing to do it? Worse than that, do you have other bottlenecks and roadblocks in the way? And many of you in your organizations, as you grew and as you scale, hit that bump along the road saying, my God, if I take more in, what's going to happen? What I tell people is before you demand more sales, meaning more people, more processes, more this, the product and service that you're delivering, is it optimized? Is it right? Are you meeting the right people in the market? Are you actually targeting the right customers? People think that by 1 + 1 is going to make 10. It doesn't always happen that way. And what you end up finding out is you actually lose money, not make money, when you think you're going to make more sales. It's a crazy thing, and it's a crazy reality.
In my experience, I became pretty skeptical about increasing sales, because what we really want is to increase margin, increase your gross profit. And that depends on the margin of each of types of sales. So the point is to get what's the real blend you're looking for. Not necessarily higher sales. Maybe it's less sales, but the right sales. And again, margin. Who knows about the margin? Do sales department knows about the margin? Because sometimes even the finance department, they don't have a clear view on the margins. So one first thing and one weakness that I've seen often is that businesses are not mastering their margin, therefore it's hard to make the right decisions.
From a people perspective, when I hear that people or that organizations are trying to accelerate and amplify their sales, to me it's sort of triggers a red flag around blame gaming, blame shifting within the organization. You're saying, well, sales isn't selling enough, so therefore we can't do this and we can't do that. So that's what I'd be mindful of, and I'm mindful of time, that's why I'm keeping it short. Make sure that when you need more sales, or if you hear anyone saying we just need more sales, what is the underlying issue? What's below the surface that's really happening here?
So we got people, we got finance, we got strategy. Peter, please to the next slide. But what comes first? And that's the question that I have.
Oh, no, we're not there yet.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Money solves all of our problems.
To solve money problem, you need a system to manage properly your money. Because if your money management system is leaking, the more money you put in, the more it's going to leak. And the best money management system is a monthly dynamic budget tool. It sounds funny. We all imagine that all businesses have that, but you know, it's maybe 20% of them have a properly, a proper tool. So it becomes, because it's only a little amount of businesses that really have the tool and well operating, it becomes an opportunity for all those ones that doesn't have it to become a leader in their market.
So it's credible, and you go back to what I said at the beginning. When there's a vision, when there's a strategic plan, where the money goes makes sense. You have a qualitative strategy and a quantitative strategy. And what ends up happening is companies saying, we'll figure it out. Bring in the business, we'll figure it out. How many times have we heard that? We'll figure it out when it comes in. That's when the money gets burned, and that's where I've seen more companies stumble along the way, and then it's a scramble. Just because you have a war chest of cash doesn't mean go spend it. And where are you going to put it to generate what? That's why having that vision clarifies the allocation of the money, and that's where the three of us align very strongly on is don't just throw money at the problem. Figure it out from a people, finance, and a strategy point of view, and then you'll see it works out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. Have you guys, I think maybe a relatable example to more money, more problems is that have you ever had an employee that was disengaged but you didn't want to lose them? So you're like, okay, I'm going to increase your salary and hopefully they'll stay longer. Maybe they do. Maybe they stay 1 or 2 more months, but they're still disengaged because money doesn't solve the problem. To me, or from a people perspective, I like treating money as a KPI, not a solution.
And now I can ask my question, what comes first?
So the simple answer is it really doesn't matter. That's the key. When we started this conversation, I asked you your puzzle. Where do you start? And the truth is the majority of the business owners that we encounter start where they think the problem is or they're most comfortable in. So it really doesn't matter where you start this puzzle, whether it's from strategy, people, or finance. Get started. Start questioning. Start challenging your processes. Start challenging your people. Start challenging everything we've been talking about right now. Are you dealing with these myths? And then start tackling it one at a time. But this is the reason we have this triad, and this is how we had this conversation, is we realized we were dealing with the exact same problem, but our puzzle started from a different angle. So maybe I'm the corners, he's the frame, and she's the inside. It didn't matter. At the end, we all completed the puzzle when we worked together.
Well, start where it hurts the more. Start where you think you'll get the fastest benefit. But start ideally with the help of an expert, with an independent listening, and tools that works. Avoid reinventing the wheel, please.
Yeah, so just because we're running out of time, and obviously these conversations could go for hours, very interesting topic, I just want to give you an opportunity in a minute. If people in the room or online had only one thing to focus on in each category, people, finance, strategy, what would it be?
Okay, so I already mentioned this earlier today, but if there's one thing that I would advise leaders to start with today is to focus inward. Focus on how are you as a leader from a character and competence perspective building trust and allowing space for that to happen. How are you engaging through willingness and capacity for your people to be bonded? How are you finding ways for them to come together and support each other as a team? From alignment perspective, are you building a place of clarity and clear structure for your team to follow you? And then finally, the favorite is mobilization, which is prioritization and accountability, which I think people start with first, as I often preach to you. And trust, engagement, alignment, mobilize your team in that order. It has to start in that order. If you start with mobilizing, you'll end up with a team that's empty, or even worse, an organization that is dead meat.
Next slide, please. Peter? Okay, got it. Budget. Simple. It's simple. But your business budget is like a GPS. It helps you to monitor where you're going, are you going. If you miss, you miss the exit, or you're taking the wrong exit, it's going to recalculate when you're going to get there, and the new way. It's the same thing as a budget. It's the tool to help you to manage where you're going and make sure you're going to land where you exactly want it. And one last thing, so you can have the best budget tool in the world, you can have the best strategy, but if you don't have the leadership and the culture of accountability in your business to make it happen, you may fail as well.
And finally, the toughest part for some business owners is to discover their why. And this is what when I gave my presentation a few months ago, this is what I was talking about. This is the key. This is the one that unblocks so many things, discovering your why. And I'm encouraging you to read Simon Sinek's book, watch his videos, whatever, but this really opens up the mind. Why you do what you do. We understand what and how, but why you do it clarifies the vision and therefore unblocks that strategy. That's my domino that I tip first before I get to finance and people. But if I'm a business owner, my first conversation would be with them, why are you doing what you're doing? And where do you see this ending? You can answer those questions, you're already on target.
Thank you. Obviously, this topic offers so much for us to delve deeper into. We've got strategy sales, we've got finance, we've got coaching, people, etc. Take a one-on-one meeting with each of our members here. Delve deeper, understand what their value is, and keep in mind, while everyone has individual skills and expertise and services to offer, they also could offer a combined offering that helps companies grow. If you know of anybody who would benefit from their expertise, collaborators, contacts, prospects, your customers, please add them into the application. That doesn't give our members the right to contact them. It only serves as a brainstorming activity that will then help you together to strategize what the best way would be to get in touch with them. Thank you so much for your great content, and I look forward to speaking to each and every one of you.